Coming up today, South Korea and the United States start their annual Ulchi Freedom Guardian exercises. North Korea has threatened to retaliate against the US over the military drills. In the latest twist in the family feud, shareholders in the Japan-based holding company of Lotte Group backed the younger son of the group's founder to manage the massive conglomerate that operates in Korea and Japan. Plus, the wreckage of an Indonesian plane carrying 54 people has been found in a remote part of the country. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 17th of August. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this afternoon, one of the key military exercises of the year began earlier today. South Korea and the United States started Ulchi Freedom Guardian under the usual cloud of threats from North Korea. Kim Yeon-bin reports.
South Korea and the United States kicked off their annual defensive drills dubbed Ulchi Freedom Guardian on Monday. The exercises, which will run through August 28th, are aimed at helping the allies better react to the wide range of threats posed by Pyongyang. The drills involve about 50,000 South Korean and 30,000 American troops in a war game that simulates an invasion by North Korea. Officials say Pyongyang was informed of the allies' plans through a loudspeaker at Panmunjeo, the truce village inside the DMZ, on Saturday. North Korea has a history of condemning the drills, calling them practice for a northward invasion. This year is no different, with Pyongyang threatening over the weekend to take strong military counteractions against the U.S. if the drills go ahead. In response to that, South Korea's defense ministry reiterated that Seoul will strongly respond to any provocations. The U.S. State Department has stressed the drills are defensive in nature and are meant to better secure and maintain peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. The Ulchi Freedom Guardian drills come at a time of heightened tensions between the two Koreas. Seoul has accused Pyongyang of being behind a recent landmine explosion in the demilitarized zone that seriously injured 2 South Korean soldiers. North Korea denies any involvement. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
President Park Geunhye has highlighted South Korea's need for a strong deterrence against North Korea's continued hostilities and threats. At a cabinet meeting, she added the annual Ulchi Freedom Guardian training, which started today, as we just heard, is an opportunity to check up on South Korea's readiness to protect public safety and national security. Calling North Korea's recent landmine attack in the demilitarized zone a clear military provocation, President Park urged officials to ensure the 2 South Korean soldiers injured in the attack receive the best medical care and are honored for their brave service. Prior to the cabinet meeting, the president convened a closed-door National Security Council annually held during the Ulchi Freedom Guardian drills. South Korea's ruling Saenuri party says it's not the right time to talk about the possible removal of the so-called May 24th sanctions imposed on North Korea. The party's chairman Kim Moo-sung says it would be inappropriate to request that President Park Geun-hye lift the set of measures imposed on Pyongyang at this time. Now, Kim's remarks come a day after his main opposition party counterpart, Moon Jae-in, said the rival party should jointly submit a proposal to the president suggesting the May 24th sanctions be lifted. North Korea has previously demanded the removal of the sanctions imposed in retaliation for the sinking of a South Korean naval ship in 2010 as a precondition for resuming inter-Korean talks. South Korean businesses with factories at the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex are having to change their working hours to adjust to North Korea's new time zone. Seoul's Unification Ministry says North Korea intends to follow its new standard time, which is 30 minutes behind South Korea's time when it receives South Korean commuters at the business park. Earlier this month, North Korea announced its plans to push the clocks back half an hour on August 15th, the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule. A South Korean official said the ministry will take all necessary measures to ensure a smooth transition to these new hours. South Korea's National Assembly is holding a series of meetings this week to try and settle the government's budget for last year. A special budget committee will hold a public hearing this afternoon, followed by parliamentary reports from the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister on last year's budget settlement, which will take place for 2 days from Tuesday. The rival parties already agreed to conclude last year's budget settlement at a full assembly next Friday, but they are expected to clash over how to cope with the tax deficit. The parties agreed to discuss measures to increase tax revenue, including restructuring tax rates, when they passed the supplementary budget plan last month. Opposition blocs want to hike the current 22% corporate tax rate, a plan the ruling Saenuri party deeply opposes. Now, Lotte's shareholders have backed the current CEO of the group, Shin Dong-bin, to manage the huge conglomerate that operates both in Korea and Japan, approving the reform agendas proposed by the younger Shin at a crunch meeting in Tokyo on Monday. Lotte Holdings announced that shareholders would like to see him manage the group in a more stable and transparent way. Now, Lotte, Korea's fifth largest business group, has been mired in a succession feud between the 93-year-old founder Shin Gyok-ho's two sons. Now, the younger of the brothers, Dong-bin, oversees businesses run in Korea, while the older brother, Dong-ju, acted as former vice president for the conglomerate in Japan. Now, smartphone usage is, of course, becoming more prevalent throughout the world, and the mobile advertising market is a sector that has been profiting from that growth. But some warn of developments that may end up lowering the boom. Kim Min-ji reports.
The global mobile advertisement market is reaping the profits. According to a joint report by IAB Europe and IHS Technology, the revenue from the global mobile advertisement market amounted to $31.9 billion in 2014. That's up nearly 65% from the previous year. By segment, mobile display generated nearly half of the total revenue, or $15.1 billion. It was followed by mobile search with 46% at $14.7 billion, and messaging with 7% share, or $2.1 billion. The North American region accounted for the biggest proportion of the market at about 45%, or $14.3 billion. It was followed by the Asia-Pacific region at nearly 37% and Europe at about 17%. However, posing a possible threat to the market, a separate report says ad blocking software could cost online publishers losses of over $20 billion in revenue this year. Currently, nearly 200 million people worldwide are using ad blockers online, which is a jump of more than 40% from June last year. The report warned of a game-changer this fall when Apple launches its iOS 9, a new mobile operating system. It will allow the development of ad-blocking apps supported by mobile Safari, which currently makes up more than half of the global mobile browsing market. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's third largest conglomerate, SK Group, plans to extend a new wage peak system to all of its affiliates by next year, in line with government efforts to reform the labour market. About 90% of the group's affiliates have already taken steps to adopt the new policy. The system allows employees nearing retirement age to continue working until they are 60 under a gradually decreasing salary. The money saved is then directed to hiring young workers. The government has been urging business groups to establish this kind of system, which aims to promote job security for both the younger and older generations. Samsung Group and Hyundai Motor Group have decided to adopt the system within the next 2 years. LG Group, Lotte Group and POSCO have already implemented the system at most of their divisions. They plan to fully adopt it by the end of next year. The Chinese government is releasing previously unseen videos documenting the suffering of women forced into sex slavery by the Japanese military during World War II. And they include not only horrific descriptions of human rights violations against the women, but also some unspeakable atrocities. Son Jung-in has more.
Since Saturday, China's State Archives Administration has been releasing a video series each day about Japan's abuse of women during World War II. The first video, released on August 15th, exactly 70 years after Japan surrendered in 1945, includes descriptions of the horrors the so-called comfort women went through and where they were imprisoned. It's then followed by testimony from a Japanese soldier named Tsuyoshi Ebato, who recalls how a Chinese woman was killed and eaten by Japanese soldiers during the invasion of the Shandong Peninsula. The soldier recalls how a Japanese surgeon killed a woman who was forced to become a sex slave. And since food was scarce at the time, he ate her flesh and shared it with his squadron after telling them it was regular meat. The second in the series, released on Sunday, reveals how Japanese intelligence personnel reported to their higher-ups on the operation of brothels in Chinese cities. The document includes evidence that 141 women were forced to serve some 25,000 Japanese troops stationed in Nanjing. The Chinese Archives Administration says it's an undeniable historical fact the Japanese military systematically kidnapped women and operated brothels in their military bases. However, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's statement last Friday to mark the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II made no direct reference to the issue. The administration says it's releasing confessions of Japan's wartime atrocities for 8 days in the hope such evil acts are never repeated. 손정인, Arirang News.
Now, scores of rescuers are en route to a remote part of Indonesia where wreckage belonging to a crashed passenger plane has been spotted. Officials say the plane had 54 passengers and crew on board, all of them believed to be Indonesian. The crash is the latest in a string of aviation disasters in the Southeast Asian country. Kim Geunhye reports.
An Indonesian passenger plane carrying 54 people has been found crashed in a mountainous part of the country. A government official confirmed the Trigana Air Service plane had been found in the Oktabe district of the Papua region. Details are still filtering through, but the official says villagers reported seeing the plane smash into the side of a mountain.
According to the information, the Trigana Air aircraft that lost contact was found at Camp 3 Oktabe district in the Bintang Mountains Regency. The information provided by the local residents said that the flight crashed into Tangok Mountain. The detail on this finding is still under investigation.
The domestic flight carrying 44 adult passengers, 5 children and 5 crew members lost contact with air traffic control on Sunday afternoon local time without making a distress call. A detailed search was called off late Sunday because of bad weather.
The search will continue early tomorrow. The officials of the National Search and Rescue Agency will go there with the Air Transportation Director General later tonight to facilitate the evacuation work and clarify things to the families of passengers on board.
Air transport is commonly used despite Indonesia's patchy aviation record, since land travel is often impossible in the island country. Indonesia has seen 2 major plane crashes in the past year, prompting the government to introduce stricter safety regulations. Kim Geunhye, Arirang News.
The death toll from the massive explosions in the Chinese port city of Tianjin has risen to 112, with 95 still reported missing. The vast majority of those still unaccounted for after Wednesday's blasts are firefighters. Chinese officials have acknowledged the presence of toxins at the site, but they say they pose no risk to people outside the 2-kilometer evacuation zone. An army officer, however, confirmed the presence of more than 100 tons of deadly sodium cyanide stored at 2 separate sites. He said workers were trying to clear the area of chemicals before possible rain showers, which could create toxic gas. Now, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang arrived in Tianjin on Sunday afternoon to direct rescue efforts. And as you can see on the video there, China's number 2 was within 1 kilometer of the blast site, dressed in a normal shirt and was not wearing a face mask. Korean director Hong Sang-soo's movie Right Now, Wrong Then has won the top prize at this year's Locarno International Film Festival. This is the second time a Korean film has won the Golden Leopard at the festival, hosted in Switzerland, after Why Has Bodhidharma Left for the East won the award in 1989. The film star Jung Jae-young also took the prize for Best Actor, becoming the first Korean male lead to win the award. Right Now, Wrong Then is a romantic comedy that tells the story of two characters who meet up twice over the course of the same day. Well, those are the stories we've been following on this Monday afternoon in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com/news. And it's also worth checking our smartphone application. Just search for Arirang TV. Have a great start to the week. Goodbye.